everyone, I hope you're all doing fine and keeping safe. Today's one of my friend's birthdays and we can't get out and about, and I need a nice birthday card for her. So I thought to myself, I'm just going to have to make one. I'm going to have to sit down, and it's gloomy and horrible outside, so I'm going to make one. I thought while I was doing it, I could share it with you, because maybe you have people that you need to send a thank you to, or a birthday coming up, or just because you want to send a card to somebody and let them know that you're thinking of them. So I have been playing with very basic materials, some cardstock, some ribbon from my ribbon collection, and a black felt tip pen. And I've come up with a very simple card, which I thought was rather nice. And the background is all done with a felt tip pen, and then the flower is glued or sewn on top. And I think that made a really nice, cheerful card. Of course, once you get going with these things, you suddenly think, oh, I'll have a go. You get a bit more confident. So this is another one. I really like this one. This is the one that I'm actually going to send to my friend. And I've drawn the plant pot on the bottom there with a marker pen. Now you can actually mark it out with a light pencil first if you're worried about going straight onto the card. And I could also add some colouring into this bit as well if I wanted to, but I rather like that monochrome look to this bit with a nice bright colours on the top there. So I thought I would show you how I went about making these cards. I also had some left over, so I thought, oh, I'll put them into a little embroidered plaque. So she's going to get this little embroidered plaque as her birthday present. And then I discovered you could do sort of other things with the ribbon, and this one I think is really quite pretty. Look at that one, and you put a centre in there. But then I thought, oh, I had a quilt block that was sort of nearly complete, and I thought, do you know what, wouldn't that look lovely attached onto a quilt block, or you know, make a cushion. Okay, it's not a cushion that you could lean up against, but it would make a nice decorative focal point to a chair that nobody's ever allowed to sit on. Okay, so if you come back in a minute, I'm going to show you how I went about making these cards. Right, welcome back. So to make this simple flower here, you're going to need some organza ribbon, although you can do it with any other kind of ribbon as well, but it looks particularly pretty with organza ribbon. So I've got 5 pieces of the red cut in 10 centimetre lengths, and I've got 1 piece of the gold, or of pale yellow, cut 16 centimetres, and this one's going to make the centre. So you need a few beads, which you might want for the middle, but you might want to put this one in. It depends what they look like. And you need a needle and thread. So to make this particular flower, all you need to do is, when you've cut the pieces, you are going to fold your petals over. You're going to take your needle, which you previously threaded, and you've got a knot in the end of it, and you are just going to do a running stitch, little tiny stitches along the bottom, pull the thread through and pop that down onto the table. Then pick up the next one, fold it over. We don't want to crease it because we want this to be quite rounded here. Again, through the edge and along the bottom, and if I get to the other edge and pull that up and sit it down next to the other one, so that you're being organised about it, because they can all get wrapped around each other, and then in a minute when we pull this flower up, you'll spend half an hour trying to unravel it and untwist it and sort it out, and that's when it becomes irritating. So keep yourself all organised and lay them down one after each other. And you can see that this is really quick to do. I made about 5 or 6 cards. I only intended to make one for my friend, and before I knew it, I was away with lots of ideas, and they were quite quick to do. So that's your 4th one. And number 5. Here we go. Now, when you get this one on, I've got a knot. See, I told you could quite easily get knots. This is when it becomes frustrating. All right, lay them down on the table. Let's move that out of the way a moment. So I've got a little row of them. Now, if you gently pull them up, rather than picking them up in the air, I'm going to attach, put your fingers in the way, I'm going to attach back onto the beginning one. Now they're in a circle. And then what I can do is I can pull them up and I can move them around in my hands. And once I've got them gathered, I turn over to the back and I just do a little holding stitch wherever I can, just so they can't come ungathered again. There we go. Now I can turn over and I can pull them out, and there I have my lovely bouncy flower. Now you have choices here. You might like it just like that, and you might have the appropriate button which is just going to go in the middle, and you push it down, especially if it's got a shank on the back like that, because you can push the shank through what is a little hole in the middle where you gathered it up, and there you are. That's a pretty flower. But I quite like to use this piece of ribbon that we cut extra to go in the middle, and what I rather like to do is you can either just gather it. So if I come up from the back of my flower, I haven't cut my thread off, if I come through onto the front of my flower, I can just, I'm now on the top, and I can now take this other ribbon and I'm just going to do a running stitch fairly large and fairly quickly all the way up the middle. And you see how that's gathering up against my fingers there. So we just do that and we go right to the end, and then we slide the whole gathered length down onto the middle of your flower. Keep your thumb on it because it has a habit of, give it a tweak. Work out how you want. Now I could put a bead on here at the same time, but I haven't got one handy and I can't let go of it. So you need to be prepared. Now there you go. That looks rather nice. I quite like that. So put a bit of sort of pull on it, and so that it makes that gather sort of sink down, that stitch disappear. Put your thumb on it, hold it really tight, turn over to the back and do your finishing stitches in anything that you can get the needle through. It's on the back, so nobody's going to see it. And make sure you put enough holding stitches in that when you let go, it doesn't all unravel, because that is really annoying when that happens. I've stuck about 5 stitches in there. And also, I don't cut this off. I actually leave a length of it on, just in case I decide I'm going to sew it onto the card. And there you have a flower ready to go onto your card. Okay, now that one's just got 5 petals on it, but you could have 6, 7, 8 petals, however many that you can thread on before you lose the will to live with the gathering stitches. So there you have it. That's your flower. So here's my cardstock. I've got an A5 piece of white card, and I need to carefully fold that in half and make a nice crease down the middle. So I'm going to put it flat down on the table and make sure it's evenly folded, and then I'm going to make a nice sharp crease along there. If you've got a nice set of fingernails, you can use those to put that nice crease in. And there's my envelope ready to pop it in. It's just slightly bigger because we're going to have a sort of a flower that's slightly risen off the surface in there. Right, so let me take the envelope out of the way. So now this is where your free form drawing begins. I have a marker pen here. You can use any black pens you like. I like to work with a marker pen. I quite like the way it has a chisel end on it and you can get thick and thin lines. Now my flower is going to go about there on my card. So I am going to draw my stalk down my card like that. I'm going to put in some grass, and I'm going to put in a nice big leaf. Keep it simple. You can put the veins in, they look quite nice. And I'm just going to offset this leaf here. I said offset, but it's actually quite even. And I'm going to do a few dots here, a few dots along here. And I think that's it for this one. Keep it simple. Put my pen away. And now I'm ready to attach my flower onto my card. And you can do that either by threading this thread back onto a needle and taking it through the card, and then just putting a little bit of sellotape on the inside of the card just there where it comes through. Or if you've got a glue gun handy, you can just heat up your glue gun, put a little bit of glue there, press it into place, and that's your card done. And of course you can then cut off this piece of thread here because you don't need it. Now that's really, really simple. And then you can actually take a thinner pen and you can write little messages. I'm just going to put happy birthday. Now, I never like my handwriting, but people tell me it's lovely. So you just have to sort of go with the flow. I'm a happy birthday there. I'm going to put, what am I going to put on here? Actually, not a lot. I'm just going to put a few thin lines in here. A few sort of squiggles. I do like my squiggles, girls. They sort of follow me around. And I think that's it. You could put things along the bottom here. You could have a great day. And anything else, you can even pop, once this is on, you can even do things like, you know, right round here as well. So I hope you have got that. It's very simple, and now you can do lots of modifications with it. Here's a slightly different version. This is a square card. It's a much wider ribbon I've used, but then I've used some thinner ribbon and made smaller ones and put beads in the middle. I had a lovely piece of really expensive, didn't want to use too much of it, this lovely braid down here, which seems very apt to go on there. You can make little gift cards. So here's another one here. It's a little gift card, which you could put on the parcel. So you could actually make another red one, pop it on a parcel, and then when you send your card that you've just made, you could add a tag to it as well. This one's rather lovely. I mean, that one's got some different leaves coming out the back and swirls. And under here, I've just put a couple of little bits of thin, narrow ribbon just to suggest that it's a bouquet. And that's quite attractive. But you can do it on black card as well. So there's one on black card, and I've used a gold pen with that one. So simple and so quick, but so effective if you can't get out to the shops to buy a card for somebody that you want to send a special something to. And this one, I've just sewn a bit of the gold rick-racky type stuff around the edge, and underneath here I've put some yellow ribbon across just to give it a little bit more interest. So there's no excuse now for not being able to send a birthday card to anybody in lockdown, because these are so quick and easy to make. And then if you want to go on, you could then go on to make the little embroidery. Now this is the hoop size is about a 4-inch hoop. These little flowers here, they were how we made the middle to the flower we've just made. So there it is, the flower we just made there, except I've popped a few beads in. And these are exactly the same as the larger flower, except I've used a narrower ribbon. And you just adapt and, change the sizing of the lengths that you cut before you fold them over. And there's more of that little precious braid in there and some little buttons. And hopefully she will really like this, because she knows that I've sat and made it for her, because I can't go out and buy her a birthday present at the moment. And you could do all sorts of things with it. As I say, you could do it on a larger hoop. You could have baskets of them where you actually make the basket here with appliqué fabric. And of course that brings us to the last idea, which was this idea, where I've taken a piece of cotton, piece of low loft wadding, I've quilted the whole area of white free motion on the machine, and then I've appliqued on under here, you'll see, like a little sort of reef, very simply, with some green satin stitch to hold it down. But again, depending on what you were going to use it for, it wouldn't even have to be appliqued down with machine stitch. It could be hand stitched, it could just be bonded to the surface. And then I've used all those little flowers to actually make a pretty little reef, which again could go into
it could go into a picture frame, it would make a cushion. It would just be fun to do and see where it went. I hope you've enjoyed that. It's been fun whiling away a miserable afternoon here.